Well guys, the new C8 Corvette is officially in Forza Horizon 4 and I cannot wait to share it with you guys today. However, I figured a bunch of people have been doing a bunch of, high-speed builds, high-horsepower builds, all that kind of stuff, and I decided to do something a little bit different. So let's go ahead and get into the video and I'll show you guys what we decided to do. Now, the new C8 is definitely a gorgeous, gorgeous car, and I think it absolutely belongs here in the Forza universe. Now, a lot of you guys have been wondering how to unlock it, and fortunately, it's actually a very, very, very easy car to unlock. Basically, all you need to do is do a single-player seasonal championship. There's 3 races, and the class is B700 Chevrolets. And so, once you complete that, on any difficulty, highly skilled or above, the C8 Corvette will then be yours. And I highly recommend going through all of the upgrades and really giving multiple versions of this car a try, because it's totally worth it. Now back to the races. Now, like I said before, you have to complete these races on highly skilled or above. I did these races on pro. However, you can do them on any difficulty between highly skilled and unbeatable. Now, I would recommend if you just want to really knock it out super quickly, I would definitely go with highly skilled as it is. And this championship as a whole will literally only take about 10 to 10.5 minutes to complete, depending on how quickly you complete these races. Now, I've also seen a lot of people suggesting all-wheel drive tunes as far as the cars that you'll use in order to beat these races, but rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, it really is up to you, and honestly, if you're pretty skilled within the game, beating these races in a rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive car, either way, will be pretty simple, and it shouldn't take you all that long at all, either way. So once the new C8 Corvette was in my possession, I immediately started having all these different ideas on how I was going to build it. And that's why I personally think that I'm going to have maybe 2 or 3 different setups for this thing saved at all times, because I love the car, I love the way it looks, I love the way it drives, it handles amazing, and also it actually has incredible traction because of where the engine is positioned now in the middle, obviously, to help transfer the weight to the rear under hard acceleration, and that's particularly going to help people who like to do those high horsepower, straight line, and highway-based builds. Now, going back into what we are going to do with it, as I'm going to be talking about later on in the video, we actually ended up deciding to do a off-road lifted version, and I figured it was going to be a little bit of a different idea from what most people will be doing with this car, because again, I've seen a lot of people doing high-speed builds and circuit builds and drift builds, but I was like, wait a minute, who's doing the lifted off-road version? That's right, we're going to. Also, can we just take a second to appreciate how incredible this thing sounds? Now, moving on to the build process, one of the things that actually really stood out to me that I really liked was the fact that this car does allow you to adjust the wheel offset. So I'm, again, really, really grateful for this, really, really happy that this is a feature on this car, and I know that it's a feature a lot of people are going to take advantage of. Now, whether or not you're trying to go for a drag car aesthetic or a drift car aesthetic or a circuit car aesthetic, you have all of those different features there available to you for how you really want to tailor that wheel offset. And then, of course, once you pair it with a nice set of aftermarket wheels, you can really achieve a nice look. Now, granted, aftermarket wheels are one of the most subjective things in the entire world, and they are completely and totally up for debate on what looks good, but that's half the beauty of it, because you can decide what looks good to you, throw it on the car, and then boom, you're good to go. Also, in case you were curious, a fully built twin-turboed version of the stock engine will make just over 1,100 horsepower, about 1,143 horsepower, and that's actually a really, really respectable number, considering the fact that that's a fully built version of the stock engine and is not swapped. Now, you have a ton of swap options available for this car, including the racing 7.2-liter V8, which we're going to be using a little bit later on. However, it's really nice to know that if you want to stick with that stock engine for a big power build, it is still a very viable option. Now, my first time driving it was an absolute blast, to say the least, and this is actually with the race suspension, not the drift suspension, and as we know, the drift suspension allows you to have a ton more steering angle so you can actually go into bigger angle slides and recover them a lot easier. This, on the other hand, the crazy part about it is the fact that you could be sideways at 120 miles an hour, get into the throttle, and it will still gain forward momentum, and I can only assume that that's because you still have a good amount of weight over the rear to where even if you are spinning the rear tires, you're still getting enough friction into the ground to also push you forward while the tires are spinning, which is just like a wild and mind-boggling thing to think about. But as I was driving around and doing this very first drive, that's when the idea dawned on me to where I was like, I want to make an off-road version. I don't know why, but I want to make an off-road version. I want to take it to the off-road park. I want to throw some mud around and see how it does off some jumps as well. So back to the shop I went, and immediately I installed the rally suspension, and I decided to look for some more off-road looking wheels, and I was also thinking, I was like, you know what, I should probably also put the rally tires on it while I'm here, because again, like I said earlier on in the video, everybody's gonna build street versions of this thing, everybody's gonna build drift versions, everybody's gonna build drag versions, and I was like, man, I feel like I'm just leaving so much on the table by not attempting to do some sort of off-road related build with this thing. And I was like, when I threw the rally tires on it, I was like, you know what? There's a minor chance that I might be onto something here. I don't know if I am or not, but we'll find out a little bit later in the video. You bet we'll find out. This is also where I decided to swap the engine. I decided to also throw a all-wheel drive setup in it because I was like, you know what? We're going full on with the off-road thing. We might as well. And this is when I decided to swap the 7.2 liter racing V8 into it, and then also decided to strap turbos onto that, which is going to get me all the way up to over 1,300 horsepower. And that's just absolutely mind-blowing, really, and it's just gonna blow the tires off, blow all four tires off when we're off-road, so technically it's way more than we would ever need. But I was also building this thing straight up just for fun, and I also, in order to give it a little bit more of that off-road look, I went back and adjusted the wheel offset so it was as far out as it could go, and now it's got a little bit more of that kind of off-road four-wheel drive-ish thing going on. Now, the first outing in this version of the car was definitely interesting, to say the least, because when I set off in it, I was like, okay, the traction's really, really good. I mean, I'm on pavement, but I've got rally tires, and so I didn't expect the traction to necessarily be the best, but it really did surprise me off the line. The crazy part was, once we got into the dirt, I feel like and this is going to sound kind of silly, but the balance of the mid-engine setup combined with all of this power, plus that all-wheel drive system that I threw into it, I was like, you know what? This is not only really surprising, but it's a lot of fun. And, you know, normally I would say I would probably avoid doing a build like this for off-road purposes, but the beauty of Forza, yet again, is that you can say, oh yeah, I'm gonna build a lifted off-road twin-turbo C8 Corvette, and I'm gonna make it work. And again, that's just the beauty of all of the different things that you can do in this game. Now, granted, of course, I will have street versions and drift versions and top speed versions of this car, of course, but this off-road version, I think, is definitely going to be my, you know, my variant of the car that I'm going to pull out if I'm going to just, like, go out and have a blast with, like, some friends or something like that, or just bomb across the countryside, or do cross-country events, or whatever ends up being, you know, whatever ends up being the most fun activity at the time. Now, I would love to know from you guys in the comment section down below if you have gotten your hands on the C8 Corvette yet in Horizon 4, and if you have, I would love to know what build you've done, or what builds you've done, and what you are enjoying most about the car, and what you are mostly using it for. I'm really curious to find out if you guys are using it for more racing, or more drifting, or more drag racing, or what you guys really ended up deciding to do, or if you're, you know, wacky like me and decided to do a off-road build. But with all of that being said, again, let me know your thoughts and opinions on the new C8 Corvette in Horizon 4 in the comment section down below. And I know it's been a while since I have shown Horizon 4 on my channel, but it was definitely a really refreshing experience to get back into Horizon 4 again. I really do enjoy this game, and I think that when I take a break from it for a little while and then I jump back into it, there's always new stuff to do. There's always new, like, fresh stuff to try out. Sometimes it's new races, sometimes it's new challenges, sometimes it's new cars, sometimes it's new tunes that your friends have made that you really want to try out. But regardless, I definitely had a blast jumping back into Horizon 4, and I definitely think that I'm going to come back again and keep on messing with this C8 Corvette, because there's a lot of potential in this thing for all sorts of different types of driving disciplines. and I think that there's a lot to be unlocked with this car. Now, do I know if it's going to be topping the leaderboards and anything? I don't know. Only time will tell. We will have to find out. But let me know once again in the comment section down below if you enjoyed this video and if you enjoyed this build, if you thought it was a little bit different, and if you've done anything like this, also let me know in the comments down below. That is going to do it for this video. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you guys later.